You're listening to Startup Stories on Good Morning Delhi with Sarthak.
That is what you're listening to. We're telling you the stories of the heart behind those dry Excel sheets and funding rounds and all of those things. We're trying to see if we can get to the story of the startups. And today we've got a very interesting startup to talk about. And the two people behind Tassyam, of course, are Ayush and Tanya. Thank you very much for joining us, guys.
Thank you for inviting us. Thanks.
Organics, yes?
Yes.
Something that a lot of people are either holding their hearts and half closing their eyes to, or thumbing their noses to. It's a very interesting field that you've chosen. Tell us a little about what Tassyam is all about.
You want to go ahead?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So,
Lovely couple. Very tehzeeb.
right. Tassyam, the word came in from a Sanskrit word called tasya. That means for you, or to do something for you. So that's the idea behind the brand, to make products which cater to the consumer and are built in a way that's are made in a way that benefit the consumer. How we started this was that there's a long story how we got into this. I was doing my master's in Madrid, and I did a specialization in entrepreneurship. I launched this Tassyam as a project for my final semester. Got some good feedback, came back to India in 2016 and finally launched it. I started out with a couple of teas. I was just into exotic teas, sourced from Darjeeling and Assam.
Oh, wonderful.
And trying to promote it in India and outside of India as well. And over time, we added spices and dry fruits and more products to our portfolio.
Right.
Hing being our flagship. So hing is something that I've always had interest in. My great-grandfather was one of the first importers of hing in India.
Oh, I see.
So it's been 102 years since we've been importing hing in India.
Wow.
So we added that in the product portfolio. That eventually became one of our flagship products.
Right.
And just 2 years ago, Tanya and I got married. And Tanya was brewing kombucha before we got married.
Okay.
And
Romance over tea. Just the right thing to do, I tell you. Wonderful. Yeah.
And so Tanya came in and we added kombucha to our portfolio. We went from blending tea and asafoetida into crafting flavors now. So Tanya can take over, I think, from here.
Please, Tanya,
Yeah.
take over.
Yeah, so I never thought that I would actually be brewing kombucha for like a living. But yeah, I'm a lawyer. I've studied law. I worked with a law firm for a couple of years.
Right.
And then I decided, okay, I need to do something of my own. And that's how I just during the lockdown, I got into fermentation, got deeply into fermentation, started brewing kombucha, and then launched my brand. And that's the same year we met and we got married. And that's how we then decided to just,
Wow.
work together on everything food.
So can we call your romance a spicy one? It's not. Of course, there's teas, and there's spices, etc. But what gets you really to sort of pump your fists and talk about it with clenched teeth and animation in your faces is hing, right?
Yes.
That's your thing, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
And there's a lovely story about that as well
Yeah.
that you want to tell. Yes.
Yeah, I'll jump right in.
Yes.
So okay, so hing is something that people have come to imagine that is something that grows in India,
Sure.
but that's not the case. So hing generally comes from the region of Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Iran, Kazakhstan, all these countries, all
Right.
these regions, and there are many cultivars of hing. So when you have when you say you buy mangoes, you have
Right.
Langda, Denga, Chausa, Safeda, all these different cultivars, and they taste and they look very, very different from each other.
Cultivars meaning varieties.
Different
yeah?
varieties, yes,
Right.
exactly. So similarly, also for hing, there are a lot of different cultivars and varieties, and there are about 200 different cultivars, and we've been importing about 19 to 20 different cultivars which are edible. There are some hings which are inedible,
Right.
which are cheaper, but they're not supposed to be consumed by humans. And then there are these hings, about 20 different varieties that we import. How they differ is that they have their own aroma, their own taste. They're totally unlike each other, and they go well and they pair with different foods.
Okay.
So
Give us an example.
yes, so there is this hing that we so we have a range of hing. So I'll just give you a brief about how hing works. So the two big main varieties are raw hing and compounded hing.
Okay.
So whenever you read the words compounded hing or bandhani or bandhani hing,
Oh.
that means that hing, the raw material, is blended with some sort of cereal flour, could be wheat flour, rice flour, or any other thing, and a thing called gum arabic, which is also another oleoresin,
Yes, of
like
course.
hing is.
Yeah.
So hing comes from the root of a plant called the Ferula asafoetida. So we slice the root, and from that we get the oleoresin,
Right.
and that's what hing is. So when we talk about the commercially available hings, generally we talk about compounded hings.
Right.
So in compounded hings, you can have both compounded hing powders, and you can have compounded hing bricks or crystals.
Okay.
Those bricks or crystals are made to look like raw hing,
Okay.
because hing's prices over the decades have shot
Sure.
up like crazy.
Sure. Sure.
So then we also have the real raw hing, and with Tassyam we have a range called the Lakshmi variety. So it's called Lakshmi Chand because it's named after my grandfather.
Right.
So all the pure varieties are named after him.
Uh-huh.
So within that we have several different varieties. I'll just talk about two main varieties.
Sure.
One is Ultra, which is a very universal variety, is mostly native to Uzbekistan and Afghanistan.
Right.
But then there's something called Hira.
Okay.
That's the black diamond of hings.
Ah.
That's a very, very rare hing. Very few people like it. About 5% of the population absolutely adores it, and the rest of the population would hate it.
Okay. Okay.
So that's something that goes amazingly with Rajasthani food or Himachali food or North Indian food.
Where there's already a lot of spices there.
Yes,
anyway.
exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And those people are used to that flavor profile of hing. But if you put it in, say, something like South Indian food, it would totally spoil that dish. For that, we have Ultra.
Okay.
So Ultra is something that everyone's used to. It's the perfect replacement for garlic and onion.
Uh-huh.
We've also been exporting it a lot to the US and Europe and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, that's our more universal range.
That's
of hing.
fantastic. We've only heard pairing with wines and meats.
Right.
But, we forget that spices are very, very important to us. And
Very, very
pairing. Okay, so there's this whole thing about people not taking it seriously enough because they think it's a little too foo-foo and high society as well. So have you had people thumbing their noses at you saying, organic and all, you're just being faddish and all? Has that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's one thing that we always tell our customers, and we feel really happy when people ask us that, are you organic? Like, what is this about? And we tell them that, in the market, now it's become a buzzword. Everybody talks about sustainability, about organic, natural. But the thing is that you have to really read the label. We always tell our customers, you read the label, see if it's actually organic, if there are certifications there. Like, we are certified with our certifying bodies, and we can say that, people just write down organic on the label and not have any...
So what are these organic bodies, Tanya? I mean, what should we be looking out for if it's truly organic?
Right. So there are different bodies. There's India Organic, there's Jaivik Bharat, Indocert, and
there's RSOCA, there's USOCA. So these are all certifying bodies
Different.
which certify you to be organic.
Sure.
And then you get certifications either for India. For India, you have Jaivik Organics, Jaivik Bharat,
Jaivik Bharat.
and also APIDA, which
Oh,
gives
of course.
you
Yeah, of
and
course.
India Organics.
Sure.
And for the US and for Europe, you have different certifications, but these are provided by certifying bodies.
Sure.
So. Yeah.
Sure, which is important to remember. But it's also important to remember that money is extremely important to get these certifications and the organics as well. One tends to very subconsciously now associate startups with funding and going out and selling the ideas so that others invest in it. Have you gone into funding rounds? What is your funding structure like?
Not yet. We haven't. We have been bootstrapping throughout.
Oh, wonderful.
And we believe that whatever products we're making are of such quality, and we do have repeat customers. Like in the past few years, we have built up our customer base who come back for the quality of the product. And that's something that's really important because, of course, funding and everything, that's one side of the story. But to really sustain a quality of a product and to create something that people come back for, that's something that we have been sustained. Like, we really believe in our product and our quality.
That's what we recommend to everyone. Like, just don't jump into startup ideas which you hear about or which are just buzzing right now. Do something that you're actually really passionate about.
Sure.
Because that's the best way. Because you every day it makes you happy to go to work, and then
exactly. And I think the other thing that we should underline is the seduction of scaling, right? I mean, everyone talks about scale and scaling up, etc.
Right.
But that's a bit of a double-edged sword, is it not? I mean, what's your scaling thoughts? What are your thoughts on scaling?
Right. So the thing with VC funding and all of these these startup investments that you get, they come with a cost.
Mm.
So you have to give out an equity share from your company, and then there's this constant pressure of growing at a very, very high scale, in which sometimes you don't end up being profitable in the end. So as similar to our food products, to the products that we create, we also want to build a startup or a company which is also sustainable. We wanted to sustain for the next 100 years.
Sure.
For it to last. So that is something that generally or sometimes doesn't happen when you get funded, and you have to be in that high-paced environment of just continuously scaling, even if it comes at the expense of losing the quality of your product or at losing money.
Sure.
So that's not something that we intend to do at the moment.
But you're happy bootstrapping? I mean, it's a satisfying time for you?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like the pregnant pause before totally.
Right. No, so in external funding, of course, would help.
Would help, huh?
But it's not something that's
It's not a
necessary.
deterrent.
Yes,
Sure.
exactly.
It's not a deterrent. Like,
So-
we are still making good products, but of course that's a different
Sure, of
Right.
course, I
Yes.
understand that.
Yeah.
But that's a perspective, I mean,
Yes.
it's important to remember that there are things that are fashionable, and then there are things that are reasonable and practical. But Tassyam Foods is what Ayush and Tanya are running very happily and very passionately. It comes through when you talk about your product. It comes through with the smiles that you have when you talk about your product, which is wonderful to see, because and the practicality of it as well. It was wonderful to hear you say that you've been bootstrapping, and that right now you would want more funds, but the quality of the product is extremely important, especially because the fact that you're in the organics field, which is now a little bit of a double-edged sword. A lot of people tend to thumb their noses at them, but we're living in the world of social media, and listicles are it, I'm told. So what I'm going to ask you to do is give us a list of 3 to 5 things that you would suggest to someone who wants to take their first steps in the world of startups, especially in the world of organics or spices, which are so involved and so important.
Yeah. So if we talk about organics, just ensure that you actually certified, and make sure that when you buy from a supplier which is organic, because in the end, like, you have to buy from either farms or some aggregators, ensure that you get the right transfer certificates, and not just products which are inorganic in the name of organic. So that's something that's really important. That's important for you as a startup founder, and that's important for your consumers also. So that's something that's really, really important from what I think. And Tanya?
I think maybe like not having something fixed in your mind that okay, that these are the 4 items that you're gonna do in your brand, because the market is changing constantly.
Sure.
So you have to keep an open mind and think about what can do well
Sure.
for you as an idea, and also for the customers that you're targeting.
So keep eyes, ears, and mind open to newer ideas. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would circle back to like the same thing that I said earlier. Like, make sure that you're actually passionate about it, because a lot of people are just getting into businesses that they actually have no interest in. They get into it just because that's something that's the in thing right now.
Sure.
But in the end, you end up messing it up, and then that demotivates you into actually launching a brand or a product later in life, which you would eventually actually be proud of, or be like you have interest in.
Sure.
So
Of course.
that's
Makes
something that so do something that you actually like, and then there's a higher chance of you excelling in it, rather than doing something that you don't like and then failing at it, and not doing the thing that you would have done otherwise.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's food for thought.
Yeah. And just one thing to add, and this is not specific to food, just a startup culture in general, that don't think that this is it, like this is your life. Don't fix your life according to one particular idea in your head, because it can change. Like, I never thought that I would, when I was studying law or working at a law firm, I never thought that I would be brewing kombucha and loving it so much, or working in the food business.
Yeah.
Like, it's the best thing that I've done.
Sure.
So just go with the flow. That's
go
what
with the
my
flow.
suggestion would be.
Yeah, and remember, brewing kombucha and loving it. You have your own version somewhere inside of you. So find that, fill in the blanks, and the rest will be okay. Thank you very much for your time, Ayush and Tanya. This has been absolutely wonderful.
Thank
and,
you so much.
We would like to wish you the very best for what I'm sure is going to be a very, very bright future for Tassyam.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It
Sarthak.
was lovely being here.
Yeah.
Absolute
thank you.
pleasure. So yeah, that's startup stories. If they got you to think a little, that's the first step to doing things, right? Lovely, isn't it? Okay, we're taking a break and coming right back right here on 94.3 Radio 1.